the Polish interest. I started to elaborate, and somebody interrupted me and said, "Pal, don't," and these are people whom I know for decades, "don't pursue it, this is our national interest." Finished. Okay, but Germany is still very much from behind. Germany has a rejected leadership role, and now, of course, Germany is now bound to leave. And this is one of the reasons why Germany is bound to leave, because there is a vacancy. And of course, Germany is not powerful enough to lead, but it's left with some of its major tenets to lead. As a consequence, whether we will like German leadership or not, we will live with German leadership. And of course, Germany continues to be embedded in Europe and in the European Union. And of course, one of the reasons why Germany is bound to lead is not only this one. François Hollande, come on. The British that don't know where they go. When Tony Blair asked Angela Merkel why things are going so well in Germany economically, and Angela Merkel responded to him, Tony, we are still doing things. Basically, there is an industrial base. Every sixth job is in the car manufacturing industry, and so on and so forth. So, the real issue and the conclusion is that the more Germany has to take the lead in Europe, even if luckily it might pretend to share it with France under the young man, and continues with its current policy mix vis-à-vis Moscow, the more it will get on collision course with Moscow. They are bound to collide because of the fundamental differences. They may ease it by history, by personal relations, but the objective fundamentals are bringing them into collision in one way or the other. The questions for me, the last three questions: will Germany be more serious about Russia sanctions? Turbines, Nord Stream 2, and a number of other things. The turbines that we all knew got to St. Petersburg to a fake address to continue their way to Crimea, which is under sanctions. And of course, Germany, having so much trade with Russia and having so much investment with Russia, can change the atmosphere. Because nobody can say, okay, the Germans are disaffected or unaffected by this. The Germans are affected. So the objective reality makes it possible for them to say, we are taking the sacrifice. So the people who want to sell apples from Polish apple trees, and everybody else, the Hungarians with their pork, and so on and so forth, they all should stand in line because we are the biggest losers. So there is an objective, interesting reality behind it. The second question is, will Germany remain a civilian power and a trading state? The two things that characterize Germany for the last several decades. If yes, and I think we are firm on that it remains, this may alleviate the pain of Russia, as it will have less problem with a militarily indecisive European leadership than with one that diversifies its power base and strengthens its military power, because that clicks in Moscow. Many of the other things, unfortunately, in Vladimir Putin's head is not clicking. So, at the same time, Russia is taking advantage of the West's internal divisions. Hence, for Russia, I think leadership is a problem per se. I stop here. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's kind of a exhaustive overview of the four cases. Any comments or questions from the audience? In the back?
Thank you very much. Mariusz Antonovich, Vilnius University. So maybe to test what you've said. So we have this issue. Well, on the one hand, we have Nord Stream 2. And on the other hand, we have this 3Cs initiative, which is mostly based on infrastructure, on energy interconnections, north-south, etc. which is planned to have major EU funding, and we know that Germany has a big say in EU funding. So, and from what I saw last week, the US administration is supporting this 3Cs initiative for various reasons. So what is your prediction? Will Germany stick to Nord Stream 2, or will the EU funding will continue flowing for this 3Cs initiative and those energy interconnectors? Thank you.
Okay, well, we can maybe just kind of survey the entire panel. My best guess is that Nord Stream 2 will continue, even though I think it should not. That it should not. As Paul suggested, I think they have decided that this is really in their long-term, at least national interest, even though I think it's contrary to the way their leadership in the EU is perceived. I think it also doesn't really support their efforts for the economic development of Ukraine or Northern Africa, which would be an alternative source of natural gas. So it kind of undercuts, to an extent, their leadership. Whether they fund or provide funding for some of the projects in the 3Cs, I think is more of an open question. This might be either seen as a small compensation for continuing with Nord Stream, or it might be seen as here's another kind of competing set of projects that they don't see as a priority, and perhaps also an opportunity to give a signal to some of the countries within the 3Cs initiatives with which they have political disagreements on other issues, including Poland and Hungary and some of the others, that this is not something we're going to support as long as you're opposing us on other questions. Graeme?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just try and think, what would Russia have to do for Germany to drop Nord Stream 2? So non-kinetic attacks during the German election, hacking critical national infrastructure with clear links through to GRU and FSB hacking groups, undisputable links, that would kind of create some pressure. In Georgia last week, on Tuesday, I think, Russia moved the border another 500 meters. It's now 400 meters from South Ossetia to the main Georgian transit line. So if that highway and pipeline is breached very visibly, by Russia, if you're Germany, what do you do? Is it extra sanctions and you still carry on with Nord Stream? So really, the running, it's cross-party support in Germany. It's core national interest. Everyone's united for Nord Stream. It's really what Russia could do to sabotage itself that puts Merkel in a position where she has to respond, and a clear signal would be for the Russians would be to cancel that particular pipeline, or at least suspend it. But is Putin foolish enough to do something, and are the German diplomats basically signaling to Russia that this is the, short of disconnecting them from SWIFT or the global banking system, which Russia says would be an attack, an all-out attack on Russia, Nord Stream is something that the Germans could put on hold if they wanted. So does that moderate Russian behavior or not? It's a question.
So now we are in the phase of negotiation around how Nord Stream 2 will be built, how it will function. And I think there will be continuous question of how Nord Stream 2 fits with the vision of European Energy Union. And those questions will have to be raised, and frankly will have to be answered by Germany as well. The 3Cs initiative has been described as a counterbalance to Nord Stream 2. It's an overstatement, but there is some truth to this as well. The LNG exports through the North-South corridor would be good for diversity of energy supplies to Europe, especially to Central and Eastern Europe. But it's a sign also a bit of a desperation, maybe a strong word, but of a pressure that the Nord Stream 2 is creating. Now the initiative has been has been so far, despite or maybe well, despite and a little bit because as well, because of the American support, maybe President Trump's presence gave it geopolitical dimension that was not supposed to be there in the beginning, and so far has been met with a very cool reception in Brussels. As you might have, I think that's public knowledge, that there has been a number of invitations sent to Brussels to the EU commissioners, and all of them have been declined. So that does not bode well. I hope that was public knowledge. That does not bode well for the funding. So it's a question whether this initiative can be framed deeper in energy, infrastructural, and economic terms. But there is a clear pushback, or whether there is this trade, quid pro quo, Nord Stream 2 for 3 Cs. I'm not going to go there. And I'm very sorry, I'll have to run. So I want to say thank you, Matt. Wonderful to be with you, and I'll see you next time.
Let's give you some applause on the way out the door.
Two things. One of them, I fully agree with those who say it will continue. I think it's beyond the point of no return. There is massive German interest in it, and there is massive Russian interest in it. The Russians, as long as they don't diversify and modernize their economy, they will have to sell what they have. And this is what they have. So they are on the line of attack in every direction. They may do stupid things elsewhere, but they will not do stupid things closer to this matter. If you take a look, 2006, 2007 with Belarus and 2009, did they repeat it again? No. Did they cut the supply of gas to East Central Europe, which is overwhelmingly EU member states? No, they did not, because they noticed that they play with fire. Not to mention that the world's energy situation has fundamentally changed. It's no longer a seller's market. It's much more different. You can rely on renewables, you can rely on nuclear technology, you can do a number of other things. So the Russians will have to rush to do this, and they will do their best, whatever it takes. In this case, maybe corruption will not be so central. We mustn't forget that 52% of the export to the EU is coming from Russia, and only 42% is going from the EU to Russia, which means that this is 11% difference, and this 11% difference is coming in cold cash from the European Union member states. This is absolutely essential for Russia's development, because they can do, cash is good, is it not? Okay, cash is very good. You can do a lot of things with it. You can build social cohesion on it. You can give 5,000 rubles to every pensioner of Russia, as it happened just around Christmas last year. You can corrupt people. You can have some very unfortunate and stupid plans, or you can actually eventually develop your own economy. So Russia is a very strongly interdependent position with Europe. As a consequence, they can make stupid things, but I doubt that they would rock the boat beyond a certain point. And I'm sure that Nord Stream 2 is going to end up in Greifswald just as Nord Stream 1, and Gerhard Schröder will be even richer.
Question in the back.
I would like to ask, to wander around, if the kind of the funds which were put to the German economy after the World War II would be put into the Eastern European economy, we would have a different economy now. Because Poland did not were not paid the war. I don't know how to say it. Reparation. And you are talking about whether the Germans should lead or the other countries should lead. Maybe we should concentrate on the economy of all the European Union countries in order to have a balance. Because the Germany is using the economy of other countries in order to create its surplus. For instance, Poland economy is adding a lot of money into the German economy. And maybe we should concentrate on our economy first to be more secured and balanced in that area first, and not to give extra to the German economy, who is not in favor of different economies, but it's creating its own wealth. Thank you.
I don't know whether you are sitting opposite to people who are all in favor of liberal, globalized economy. I am afraid of that. And I have to tell you that you are trading with Germany now more than Russia trades with Germany. As a consequence, this is an absolutely clear positive sum game. It brings in technology, it brings in management, it brings in knowledge, it creates jobs in Poland, and of course people who are employed, have higher incomes, are paying more to the budget. No, I'm sorry, you know, it is not going to be a philosophical discussion.
Okay,
because
it is at the expense of our economy because of the low taxes which is paid by the German economy here in Poland. And many, for instance, the recent Mercedes factory in Poland, which was just going to be built, they are excluded from many taxes for years and do not contribute into our economy. So we pay for the well-being of the Germany. Thank you.
it's difficult to argue. Countries are offering tax breaks to companies in order to invest in their country and stay there lastingly. Whether we have done too much of it, whether we were too liberal in the 1990s, your country and my country, selling too much of our firms, privatizing them and selling them to foreign ownership, is a good question. Overall, when I walk around in Warsaw, and I was here for the first time, I tell you, in 1980, it was very different. You know, you can't say that Poland is not a country which gained a lot from the new interruption of history in the end of the 1980s, beginning of the 1990s. You are absolute positive sum game player in this, you know. We may qualify this by saying, but we could have done more with this. You know, the Koreans were not so liberal in selling their companies. They had to keep 50% of the share or 25% plus, and so on and so forth. But it's crying after the spilled milk. You know, it happened. There is not much to do about it. Maybe next time we will be wiser.
Okay. Any final short question or comment? Okay.
Mateusz Zagadłowicz, University of Warsaw. Sorry if you were talking about it, but I was absent for a while. I want to talk about Belarus. Is there? We know that Belarus is much dependent on Russian economy, but is there any chance in the future that if we will support economically Belarus, that Belarus will somehow divide and be more European?
All right. Graeme, would you like to start on that one?
Yeah. From what I see looking at Belarus, the social contract, if you like, between Putin and Lukashenko is being renegotiated at the moment. So the old contract was Lukashenko keeps control of the economy, state control of the economy, and this is a source of his legitimacy. He gets 70% of the voters, pensioners, agricultural sector, etc., voting for him because it's state subsidies and state control. Russia gets Belarus's vote in the UN, and it gets military bases and combined air defense system, and essentially Western military district in Belarus, or Central military district, whatever it is, are effectively one. What Russia seems to be doing now, though, is to insist on maintaining the military bases and even increasing them, but at the same time, it wants to, or it seems to want to, control more directly parts of the Belarusian economy. To stop, for example, Ukrainian fighters or helicopters being repaired in Belarus, and to this has an effect on Ukraine and isolating Ukraine. And what Lukashenko's been doing is try to, I think, resist that pressure and this kind of forced negotiation that's going on. So in January of this year, for example, lots of press reports about Russian color revolution coming to Minsk and how Minsk should resist. Where that goes, I think the trouble Russia has is when you look at, for example, Rosneft and Bashneft, two companies, where Sechin cannibalizes a Russian company whose head is an ultra-loyalist to Putin. So you have Siloviki types, all the internal opposition's gone, so you're basically, there's no independent oligarchs or autonomous actors within the federation. Maybe Kadyrov is still an autonomous actor to some extent. But you have this kind of fighting within the system over diminished resources. And Belarus, I think, from a Russian perspective under those circumstances, looks like another piece of the cake, that could be added. And it's a safety valve, essentially, for Siloviki fighting each other to look towards Belarus. So I think that's partly driving this coercive renegotiation of the terms and conditions of the contract.
Okay, and 30...
Sorry, yeah, and I don't see, therefore, what I do see is Belarus-Russia union kind of increasing. If Putin wants to stay after 2024, change the constitution. It's a new state, the clock starts again. So, and the most obvious place is incorporate Donbass and or Belarus.
And 30 seconds from Dr. Dunay.
30 minutes, that's very good. It's really generous. The two things, I was in Minsk about a month ago. There are two things. One of them, what the Belarusians want to paint as an image and what the Belarusians are actually doing. Belarus has noticed that the Russian economy's current shape is not helping Belarus economic development. 58% of Belarus import is coming from Russia and 42% of Belarus export is going to Russia. This is a very bad dependency. The foreign minister speaking over there was of the view that it should be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Eurasian